Good morning, everybody. Mark Westcott here with my special guest today, Bob Nixon from down in Victoria. And Bob, I know you're locked away there, but good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Mark. Actually, we're not quite locked away. We're about 15 kilometres outside the border. So we're in the land of the free, but just 15 kilometres away in Sunbury, they're locked in. We can't even go and visit our daughter.
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it, what's happening down there? But the good news is you guys are all happy and healthy and safe out there. So good to see you, Bob. I know, interestingly, as you were telling me, your internet connection down there is probably, you're in this hole somewhere between 5G and 1G. Is that right? Yours, you're on a satellite link,
yeah,
effectively.
Yeah, and someone we say, sometimes in the morning we say, oh, gee, it's not working.
Very good. Look, just for everyone's sake, Bob, you and I go back many, many years to when we were both involved with Prudential Assurance, and so we've known each other a very long time, and you're a wonderful friend. So nice to have you on the show today. As you know, this was born to help kickstart the week off in a very positive fashion, and we like to focus on positivity, gratitude, and mindset to help people really, I guess, start the week on a good foot. And interestingly, let's talk about your background, Bob. You started as a teacher, God forbid.
Yes, Mark. I had about 8 years in the classroom, secondary level, and the last 3 of those I was on secondment in Papua New Guinea. I taught at Lake Tech College in the sort of sub-tertiary level in business and economics and stuff like that. And I had the dubious role of being the teacher responsible for the operation of the school tuck shop and canteen, which was a for-profit exercise, supposedly to teach our commerce students what it was all about. Well, mate, it was one of the best educations I ever had, because we were trying to match their level of economic understanding with the textbook, and they were poles apart. And we had some fun times, real fun times. But we did, in the space of the 3 years I was there, we turned it around from being a rogues gallery to actually something that contributed profit to the welfare account of the kids.
Fantastic. And if we come to the other end of the scale, Bob, I mean, what you're doing now, and I know you're getting a lot of satisfaction and the value you're creating here, you're doing a lot of work in the aged care area. Is that right?
That's right, Mark. There's a little touch of grey in the whiskers here, and again, you might remember from our early days, the textbook said that you are best placed 7 years younger than yourself and 7 years older yourself, and that's your natural market. Everything beyond that, you've got to win a place in that market. And so, as I've aged just a tiny bit, the aged care space has been a great opportunity for me in a field that there are very, very few qualified advisors working in at the moment. We're doing 2, sometimes 3 new walk-in inquiries every week, and often people, unfortunately, who've left it to the very last minute in rather desperate situations. One of the tips, if anything, for your viewers is, if you've got any inkling that someone in your family is going to go into aged care, start planning for it now. Don't wait till it actually happens. It's a nightmare if you leave it that late.
So, Bob, what are some of the issues, I guess, people have in regard to aged care? I mean, from a qualification point of view, and is the benefits, or is it all about planning to make sure that people and their estates are maximised, I guess, so that they're not being effectively ripped off by some of the institutions?
Well, it's understanding the rules is the fundamental problem. Just even filling out the required paperwork to become, to be priced, to get an idea what it's going to cost you while you're there, is quite frightening. And one of the problems that many people face, if you're on a part pension or even a full pension, there's a set of rules that apply to assets and so forth with respect to Centrelink. And even though Centrelink does the back office work for aged care, the rules about assets and income are different. And that causes a lot of conflict and confusion for people that don't understand that difference when we're trying to do the planning. to get them in. The other thing is urban myth. Urban myth drives everything, and unfortunately, urban myth still goes back to pre-July 2014 when we used to call it a nursing home and a bond, and they take some of your money, and all that stuff's gone. It's gone 6 years ago. Right now, we're in a new era, but the urban myths still continue. And so people come in and as the old teacher bit comes out, every one of my offices is fitted with a large whiteboard, and I show them from the start there are 4 different costs that you could be involved in. One is to buy the bed. The second one is to pay the basic care fee. The third one is based on your assets and income as measured by aged care, not by Centrelink. And the fourth one is that you might have extras to pay. And I take them through that process and show them where we can get the money to pay for the bed. You don't have to pay it all. In fact, you don't have to pay any of it if you've got cash flow to pay the interest on the amount you didn't give them. Or you can give them a little bit and say, hey, gobble that up and come back to me later. And if I can find some more money in the meantime, I'll put some more on the plate. So there's all sorts of techniques in that we can run to help people without them having to sell the asset or the farm or dip into the $2 million a share portfolio that's probably worth $700,000 today or whatever.
No, that's right. So there's obviously a lot of issues there, and that's why people need advice from someone like you, Bob, to
and we actually, well, with the beauty of this equipment and this thing called a telephone, we do this business all over the East Coast, a tiny bit further west, but mostly on the same time band. We've dealt with people as far away as Bundaberg and quite a number in Sydney and the like, but it because the rules are the same in every state. That's a rather unique feature.
Absolutely. So you've been up here in Queensland talking to our folks up here. Good on you. Even though the borders are closed, you found a way.
No, my alter ego has, mate, not me.
No, good on you. Okay, as long as you get those forms filled out before you have the Zoom call with Queenslanders, you'll be okay.
Absolutely.
No, that's fine. Now tell me, so look, just a bit about yourself. I mean, I years and years ago, back in the day when we were doing superannuation work through your firm for a number of our clients, I came and visited, and you've got a great winery there on the outskirts of Sunbury called the Gisborne Peak Winery, and I've been back there a few times. Stayed in your fantastic B&B, which you should drag Barb in to talk about as well, who I know is out in the background there somewhere. But tell us about the fact that apart from being one of Australia's most eminent financial planning, you're also a farmer, a wine grower in your spare time, or in part-time, half-time.
Way back 1976, I bought 12 bare acres with the intention of moving my family from Sunbury, where we settled after the New Guinea days, and move the family up to get my 12-year-old son out of a little bit of after-school trouble. I thought, let's get him out of reach, so he's got to go to school by bus. He can't walk home with his mates and get into mischief. And by the way, I just wanted some acres. So we bought this land and built a house on it. And I had this dream that said land should not be just a token and a trophy for a up-and-coming yuppie family with some wealth. It should contribute something back. And what else better could it contribute back than a little patch of wine growing grapes? I thought that would be great. So I planted an acre. The acre was the hobby that got out of control, and it's now 13.5 acres on an 18-acre property in total. But the beauty of it, Mark, was that it gave me 2 quite separate lives. I had my career, to which I've now been dedicated for. I've just ticked over 47 years as a financial advisor, and then we'll take a few years off that, similar number, 42, I think it is. Now growing wine grapes, and with the same dedication. The two sides of it's like two sides of a 20-cent coin. One side's got the human face, and the other side got a bit of an animal. That's the 2 different parts of my life that give me that little bit of balance. But in each case, the dream is to do the best you can, not halfway. And that's what we've tried to do, and we've achieved very, very good success and accolades with the quality of our wines. We're certainly not the biggest. You won't see my wine in Queensland. We're just a very minor producer, but we produce it and people purchase it, mostly here on site, where they can have a great moment or two relaxing with friends and taking on the ambiance that we provide.
Now you've got a wonderful spot there. You've got the perfect pizza oven, and as you know, I've been there a few times and sampled your fare. So you actually have a great spot there at Gisborne. Do you want to talk about the winery, the restaurant, and so on, and how people can come out and visit you on a? Well, they used to before COVID restrictions.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with Sunbury now in lockdown, they've choked off 70% of our market. About 70% of our customers would normally come up from Sunbury. They can't cross the green line, so to speak. The locals have all been here that wanted to come to a place like this. So our numbers have been struggling. Mind you, even when we do have people in, we've got a cap of 20. We used to have Sunday lunches for 150 to 200, and that's our capacity. That's what we can run. But right now we're limited to 20 people, socially distanced and so forth. We started a couple of weeks back. We started doing dinners, first time in our whole time. That Barb and I, we swore black and blue we were not going to work after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We had to have time for our own lives. Well, guess what? Financial necessity has driven us to open at night. We do Friday and Saturday night, and both those nights have been really successful. We've only had the 2 weeks so far. And you live day to day in the current environment because the buggers could shop us down as well if there were more regional outbreaks. But they've been very successful, and the feedback from our customers has been really, really lovely.
Yeah, and you've got B&Bs there as well. I stayed there recently, and I'm going to say it's just a fantastic arrangement you've got there. Lovely apartments and so on, Bob. And what have you got? Half a dozen? Is it four or six you have there?
Yeah, we got 4, and they're all rated 5-star on TripAdvisor. If people want to have a look at this, the easy way is to go to our website, gisbornepeakwines.com.au, and Barb runs that website, and it's an absolute delight to flick your way through it because she's done a magnificent job in that. And she also runs this wine, the sort of the entertainment side of the winery and all the cottage work. I look after the paddock every morning before I put this on. I'm out there for an hour or so, hour and a half before I go to my office or whatever, and I spend all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the paddock as well.
Yeah, but you do get away sometime, and you've had some great trips recently. And one of the other things, Bob, too, is you give back to certainly the financial planning community. You've been a great stalwart for many years, and MDRT, the $1 Million Round Table in the financial services industry, has. You're obviously one of the legends in that institution, and you've been going for how many years? You try and get over to America to that conference as often as you can, don't you?
I've been a member. First meeting was 76. I qualified to become a member in 75. So I'm now a 45-year member. I've been 21 times to the annual meeting. We were booked to go to America in June, we're going to have a week together, Barb and I, just relaxing, and then I'd go to the meeting. She would then go on to Wisconsin to catch up with family, and then the usual plan was I would have gone across after the meeting and met up again with her and the gang. But of course, that was cancelled this year with COVID. So for the first time ever since 1927, this organisation is not having a face-to-face meeting. We're going virtual from the 4th of August to the 7th. We've got our timetable. It starts at 9 in the morning Sydney time, and then moves to another zone of the world. And they repeat all the presentations, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be pretty heavy concentration. But the big thing missing, the thing that we love the most about this, as a 45-year member, I know a couple of people there now. You rub shoulders and you talk, and the bloody Americans attack you with a hug. But that's what it's about. Knowing people,
human interaction,
to feel people, trusting, and learning from people. You can learn from someone on the stage, but if one of your mates says, what I did the other day? I did this. Really? Did it work? Yeah, it was terrific. They're priceless moments.
And sometimes, Bob, just in the most random moment when you're hopping into a lift, you might meet someone important as well.
Yeah, well, that's a bloody tragedy of the first order. It's cursed me for the last 34 years, that bloody elevator. I got into an elevator, and there was a couple of American women in there, and I had the beautiful, remember the old fine knitted wool merino jumpers with the embroidered map of Australia or the Australian flag or one or the other. Anyway, I had that on, and I hopped in and I sort of smiled at these three women, and one said to me, "Oh, what conference are you with?" Now we're in a hotel on the outskirts of the Chicago O'Hare Airport.
Chicago,
and it turned
I've stayed there.
I was on a committee to actually help organise the following year, 1986, MDRT meeting in Orlando. I'd run a couple of rather large conventions in Australia prior to that. And my now wife was in the same hotel for a weekend regional conference with the American Cancer Society with whom she worked. And so we spoke, and then they got out and went to their floor, and I continued up to the roof looking for the rooftop restaurant to go to that night, because I had just flown in at literally 20 in the last 12 whatever hours. And I was in the wrong bloody elevator, because there's 3 towers in this hotel, and the restaurant was in a different tower. So I went and found it. And a couple of days later, this hotel had a big business contingent to use the place, but it had a live disco bar, live music every night. And as a musician myself, way back, little drummer boy and all, I went pretty much every night to have a couple of drinks there and grab a hamburger or whatever. And on the final night, the Tuesday night, we're going to leave on the Wednesday at about 11 o'clock. These 3 same women wander into the bar, and I'd been dancing myself stupid all night with anyone had said yes. And so I thought, a little bit of fresh talent here. I wandered over to the table, and I just said, "Would any of you ladies like to dance?" Well, Barbara was on her feet like that. She said, "You don't remember? I know you, bang." So we danced, and that was the biggest mistake I made in my life.
Oh, it was not. She's in the background there watching behind you, Bob, I know. So
she's in the background. I've just had, I don't know if you noticed, but I had 2 stings on behind me here. They're throwing stuff out. Yeah, so anyway.
Speaking of Bob the musician, I'll never forget when you had lunch with, you had dinner with me in Townsville many years ago, and you and I sitting down having dinner, and there was a guy playing music by himself, wasn't it? You were tapping away on the table, and he asked you if you're a drummer, and you said, "Have you got a drum kit?" And you just happened to have one in the car. So 15 minutes later, he's dragged the drum kit in, and there you are. You're off to the races on the drums, which was just so funny.
Finish that conversation.
I don't think so. No, that's fine. But tell me, Bob, you've been very successful back in the Prudential Assurance days. You were you were the leading producer in Australia 1 year, and you're always there with in the Forum of Achievers and the high level groups. What was the secret to your if there is one secret to your success, do you want to talk about that? Because you've got a very good work ethic, Bob, even at this young age of yours. You're very committed to a routine. What are the 2 or 3 things that have really worked for you to I guess help the success that you've had in your life, apart from your good looks, charm, personality, and Barb?
Well, I think the most important thing is for anyone in any sort of professional service is to make sure you are satisfying a dinkum need of the other person across the table. It's not a matter of me selling you something that I think you might like. It's me making sure I find out first and foremost what you actually need before we try and come up with a solution to that need. Far too many people along the way had the answer before they had the problem, and that's crazy. It's a total mismatch and a total destruction in the end of the relationship, because in the end that person says, "I really didn't need that. Flick it off." I've got a meeting at noon today in my office, made over the phone by this person last week. And this guy's he was a very young doctor when we first bumped into one another in the 70s, and he was a life insurance client of mine then. And over the years, he drifted off to other places and did other things. He rang my office last week and said, I'm about to retire, which means he's got to be 70 something as well. I'm about to retire and I need to talk with Bob. Now, somewhere along the line, I put into his mind that I would deliver what he needed, not what I wanted, because when he took that insurance with me way back, and I think that policy is still in force. Prudential policy, I've got quite a number of my 1970s and 80s Prudential policies still in force. And I've got a feeling when I go and do the fact find with him today, I'll find that that to be the case. But yeah, firstly, making sure you've got a need. That's the important thing. But secondly, and without making it a sales-driven activity, you've got to have some sense of self-worth driven by a sense of achievement. Because if you don't think you're achieving, you can have the greatest altruism in the world, but still not get ahead. So you've got to have some level of goals. And I just recently finished our 2021 budgets for our business. We have 2 offices, we have three licensed advisors, a staff of 8 altogether. But we've had to do the budgets going forward. And in this current climate, sales success is a dirty term. Well, how else do you keep a business on the right track? You've got to achieve new business to at least plug the gap for the stuff that goes by attrition. And in some case, to me, by clients passing on and their estate disappearing from our advice circle. So you've got to have some sense of achievement and some sense of gently finding targets that go to match that without it being over the top driven. You must sort of stuff. I think they're the main things. The first one is focused on who the client is, and I could be saying this as if I was a solicitor too. You've got to make sure you're satisfying a need, not just charging out an hour because it's a great time to have a chat. That's the first thing, and the second thing is that you've got to have some sense of achievement that is met. Your goals are being met, that you feel good within yourself.
Well, you've got to measure, haven't you, Bob? I mean, you can't make progress in the world. You've got to measure whatever goal you set yourself, whatever you're trying to achieve for yourself and for your clients. There's got to be a tape measure there somewhere so that you know you're doing a good job. And but I like your point about many people turn up with a product and try and fit the product to the client rather than turning up with questions and then finding out what people really need and being able to then prescribe what the client needs, not what it is that you're trying to sell. So that's a very good approach. And selling is not a dirty word at all. Pretty much every person in the world sells, because even if you're a waitress at a restaurant, you have to sell yourself to the owner to get the job, and you've got to sell yourself to the customers to get the tips and to be asked back. So selling is not a dirty word, Bob. It's what makes the world go around.
It's often said, Mark, that nothing happens until a sale is made, and you can take that in the broadest sense that you can consider. Someone has to sell an idea for someone else to take on to get on to the next stage. But I just want to relate one little thing though that I should have added in. Being a farmer, you sow seeds. I planted grapes, right? You sow the next effort, and whilst you don't want to necessarily be out there as you would consider to be a flogger. It's quite important that you awaken people to their own needs, and so you sow the seed. I send out a little newsletter to my clients fairly frequently over the last couple of months because of COVID. We would do it once or twice a year normally, but in that I'm sowing seeds as well as dealing with the issues of the economic crisis. And one of the seeds is that if you're sitting on $500,000 of term deposits, you've got to be crazy. Now, I don't use those words, but I put a seed in that says if you're sitting on $500,000 of term deposits getting at the moment 1.23% or whatever it is, why don't you convert it to something more like this, getting 1.65%, still with very heavy stability and security. Oh, can you get that? And so you get inquiries, and now I'm going to satisfy needs because I've helped someone else identify their own need.
Yep. So Bob, yeah, just if I can drift back to the $1 Million Round Table, that the organisation that you've been a member of for so many years. You know, as you know, I've used to go to those as well back in my financial planning days. But if you had to pick three things that you have learned in all those years at $1 Million Round Table, you know, three things or three habits or three mindsets that have really worked for you, what would they be? What's been the greatest learning that you've achieved out of the $1 Million Round Table, apart from the mateship, the camaraderie, all that sort of stuff?
Okay, good question. You could have given me 3 weeks' notice on this, though.
Oh well, you've got about 100 things. You're trying to filter 100 things and bring it down to 3. I know that's what you're going through.
I think the first one is, and I'll use a common phrase to describe it, but the first one is little fish are sweet. Too many people in my position go looking for the marlin, the big fish. They want to go and get the biggest and the richest prospect out there because, oh, my time's too valuable. I haven't got time to deal with little fish. Well, you know what? Some of my littlest fish have turned into being my biggest clients. Well, I got one client, I'll make this story very short, phoned me in about 2002. He was a retired minister of religion. A parishioner had died and left him $10,000, God bless him. And this guy, that's the only money he ever had spare in his whole life, and he didn't know what to do with it, so he phoned me. We now have over $2 million of that family's money. Sorry, $2.5 million of that family's money, because there was hidden wealth in their network that they didn't know about, that people died and passed on. And all of a sudden, a little fish is more than just a bit sweet. That's important. Never turn your back on the little bloke, because you never know how he's going to turn out to be. And my office door in two little country towns never ever says, if you haven't got $500,000, don't walk in here. You come in and we'll try and help you with what you've got and find a way to make it happen. That's the first thing. The second thing is going back to what I said earlier. If you don't have a plan to succeed, then you are clearly planning to fail. That's a fundamental. If you don't have a plan of some sort, you don't know. It's all sorts of cliches. How do you know when you're going to get there if you haven't got a map to find your way and all this sort of stuff? But I think that's the second most important thing.
Goal setting,
and particularly by going to the goal setting, but having a proper plan, not just I want to do this. How am I going to do it? When's it going to happen? Who am I going to employ to help me do it? All those sort of things I think are critically important. And you know what? And I think the third thing, I mean, the ethical impact of this organisation with 70,000 members around the world. When I joined, there was about 12,000, I think. After 40 years of membership, I get a reserve seat, the immediate row behind the past presidents. I mean, talk about glory, and there's about 25 people. But I think the third thing is effectively, as much as anything, biblical in its sense, and that is do unto others. Do unto others as you would want them to do to you. And if you live by those, they're all concepts about you being in the business and working around the business. But I think that's the third, and you're reminded of that every time you go. You can't miss it. The presentations on the main platform are just incredibly powerful about believing in yourself and making sure that you look after others the way you would want them to look after you. Yeah.
No, fantastic way, and a great way to finish off. Thanks, Bob. It's been a very quick 30 minutes chatting with you, and as you know, I have great respect and admiration. You're a dear friend, and it's always great to catch up when we can, even if it's over this type of meeting while we're going through this COVID. So thanks to you, thanks to Barb, who's in the background there, and everybody sort of head on to gisbornpeakwines.com.au and make sure you catch up with Bob next time Victoria opens up.
Thank you, Mark. It's been great chatting with
Thanks
you.
again.
I hope your friends have been interested. Thank you. Bye.
No, thank you, buddy. Bye-bye. Good talk.